Make sure we get the main one.
We are live. Here we go.
We are live. The Hunt for Success, number 26. Cody Steinman, Ryan McCracken. We're here with Will Metscher.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Got it.
I don't know why it's so hard. Last name sometimes on the podcast. I just butcher them.
People just freak out because they're live, or they take a name like Metscher and throw in like an L.
Metscher.
Like Metchler.
What was I saying?
Metchner.
I was throwing in an N.
An N in there.
Oh, and we had Claudia and Augustine.
Augustine.
I think I watched a little bit
And
of
that their names were tough. So
And you have to say it every time. Yeah, that messes it up.
What was their last name that was really giving you trouble? So
Belladine. You know, you were impressive today because you remembered everybody's name. We didn't have name badges on. And it's funny because Ryan was telling me about a podcast. What was that podcast?
Chasing Excellence, Ben Bergeron's podcast.
And he was, we all know that remembering people's names is important, but how it makes somebody feel when you remember their name, right? And I was proud because I met Tyler at a farmers insurance networking event.
Yeah.
Met him in the parking lot on the way out, invited him to the event. And then when he came in today, I was thinking about that. And I'm like, Tyler.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Sure. It's everyone's most favorite word in the English language.
Is their own name?
Is their own name.
It's their name.
They actually said that on this podcast. They talked about that as well. But the kind of the moral or the premise of the story was the fact that he had joined a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym, bought the gi, said I'm super stoked on it. And he's like, it had been a month and people are still being like, hey guy, and they didn't know his name. And so he goes, I just quit. I stopped.
Yeah.
People didn't even know my name. People
Yeah.
like to be, they like to know that you know who they are.
So it's funny because I actually thought about this as a business idea where great example of this because I went to a Men's Warehouse and first problem and I walked in and I'd worked with this person before. They'd said, like it was multiple times they'd, done stuff with me. And it was one of those where I could tell they were trying to remember my name, but it was never there. And so it was kind of like the, hey guy, hey bro, like, how's it going, man?
So what do you think is worse, that or saying you'll have to forgive me, I don't remember your name, or you'll have to forgive me, can you remind me your name?
They did discuss that on the podcast, and he said the conversation won't have true meaning if you don't just break that off right away and just say, I apologize, we worked together at XYZ place, remind me of your name again, and get past it. And now the substance of the conversation will be like far more meaningful.
Totally.
Than if the whole time you're sitting there going, I don't remember this guy or gal's name.
Because you're being intentional about it.
Absolutely.
Right? And people care. So the idea is you walk in and you know how you have those key fobs for really everything getting into places. You can have a key fob as like a premier member. And again, obviously we didn't do anything with this, but you walk into a place and it like dings a consultant there.
This is at Men's Warehouse?
This is what they should do. This was like a business idea.
Okay.
Right? And it dings them and it like pulls up on their like iPad or cell phone or something. And it's like, Brian Johnson just walked in, and it gives you, here's all of their clothes that they've bought. Here's what they, every time they come in. So whenever you walk up, it's like, hey Brian, how's it going?
It's not starting from scratch.
Right. But is that not genuine? Right. Because if people know that they have that,
I think people would still rather have that than nothing.
Yeah, I would.
Personally.
It all depends on how you spin it, because I'm thinking, not too distant future, we're all going to be wearing those Apple glasses. So they were Microsoft or whatever.
Yeah.
Google.
The Google glasses.
Yeah.
Where I just look at you and it says, Will Metscher, Southwestern Consulting. We found him on your Outlook calendar from last year on this date. He did a class, like all this information, like Terminator.
Capricorn likes long walks on the beach. Sorry.
Yeah.
See, I'd be okay with that then, because then you could invite me to a walk on the beach.
So how did you do it today? Because did you do that exercise where you used their names 3 times in a sentence? Because not only did you remember everybody's name, and to back up, we just came from a workshop that Will put on to 20 of our close real estate agents. And it was a personal business development coaching type of workshop. But not only did you remember their names, but you also referenced what company they were with, right? Because there was like 5 different companies being represented today.
Yeah. I think practice and being intentional about it and screwing up, I think is something that I've learned over time, and just doing thousands of those workshops and trainings and speaking in front of people. We do have this thing. It's called like the 7 shuns of remembering people's name, and it goes through, and I can't remember every single one of them, but it all deals with. And now I'm not going to remember any of them, but it's being association, right? I am associating Cody with a friend of mine that I also know is Cody, right? And it's being able to connect those 2 names. So that's one of them. It really just depends on each individual, because you're going to remember different ways to remember different names, and one that's going to stick for you. So for me, I repetition was mine. You say it 2 or 3 times whenever you first meet them, and just be intentional about Ryan, and eventually it's easy. I've already associated you with my buddy Ryan, who lives out in Hawaii, and you've traveled out to Hawaii, so it's like, I'm not going to forget.
What's that law Joe Rogan's always talking about? It's someone's law that the human brain can only remember like 500 people. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Not at all.
No.
Yeah, because there's a point where your brain can only remember so many people.
It sounds like a good law, though. So then when you meet people, like, is it just like, okay, Brian that I met 10 years ago, I'm going to scrap that
Yeah,
one.
it is. Yeah, gone.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. No, I can't remember that person's name.
Side note, by the way, I was going to use a picture of you in the workshop, because remember how we talked about, I was going to have you come up and talk about what you've gotten out of coaching, right?
Yeah.
So I Googled your name, and I think I just threw in like branch manager at the end of it. And it was like, you were first. Have you ever Googled your name?
A few times.
Okay. So there's like 6 or 7 just like male models with just their shirts
pull it
off.
Up. I'll tell you which one's me.
Perfect. I was going to wonder if this was a past experience of your life. If you go to images. Like that one right there. What is that?
Here, hold on. I'm going to pull up the screen capture so everybody can see what we're seeing here.
Oh, my happy Memorial Day. Things up. That's good.
So yeah, some positives, right? You have
We got
the
some
podcast on there,
stuff on there.
right? But the guy without any pants,
Or the guy with the dog.
the guy with the dog, the Vogue.
So this brings up a good question. You asked me, have you ever Googled your name? Well, we should all be doing that all the time, right?
Absolutely.
To make sure we know what's up there. So has that been a coaching topic?
It's been something that there's a website, there's a company called Brand Yourself, and I've talked to clients before that, say for example, X company, there was some scandalous thing that had happened with that company, and maybe they go on to a different company and they're trying to distance themselves from that. There's certain ways that you can do that, and the company I think is called brandyourself.com. And I got it when I was in college just because I thought it was cool. And, ego's like, oh, look, 6 out of the 7 top ones are me.
Yeah, the Google results.
The
search results.
Yeah. And so your goal is to try to get negative things off of the first page. Because what is it, like 4% of people click on the second and third and fourth pages of
Yeah, I
Google
just go down the
results?
one that doesn't say ad in front of it, and then I click on that one.
Yeah,
Right?
the first one.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've dabbled with that before just because it's interesting, and obviously a lot of that's search engine optimization and making yourself, making your pages more visible online and making your website more visible online. I mean, our company spent way too much money. Well, not way too much money, but gobs of money to make our page continue to be visible. And it gets to that this day and age, it's so important to be able to do that.
Well, we talk about coaching quite a bit on this podcast, or we have. We've had coaches on. We have one coming on next week. It's one of those things. Coaching's expensive, right? And I never spent any money on personal development, and then I got roped into going to Sales Mastery, which was several $100s. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed, and I took a Darren Hardy. I was going to bring this up today. I signed up for, Darren Hardy, signed up for one of his entrepreneur roller coaster online workshop modules. And one of the things I remember from that is he suggests taking 10% of your income and tithing it to church or charity or philanthropy, whatever you want to do,
Totally.
and then take 10% of your income and reinvest it in your business and personal development.
Yeah.
And then, so when I went back to the next Sales Mastery, they had offered coaching at that point, and the numbers almost lined up perfectly. If I signed up for coaching, it was going to be a little like 7% of what I wanted to make. And so I just had a kind of an out-of-body experience, and it was interesting today watching people's reaction, because at the end you asked for people to sign up for your coaching, or that you went into that sales strategy there. But I had kind of had an out-of-body experience. I looked at Ryan, and I just stood up and I walked over to the booth and I threw my credit card down, paid for the whole year up front. And then it would have been very easy for me to go, all right, I'm going to go back up to my room and think about it. There's another day tomorrow. The booth's going to be there. I can sign up. I need to talk to my wife before I spend thousands of dollars. And I didn't do all that. I just said, if I don't do it now, I'm not going to do it. If I would have went backed up, I would have talked myself out of it. And I got I was done. I felt proud of myself for taking the initiative, but then I kind of got sick to my stomach about the amount of money I spent. Then I started thinking what I could have spent that on, right? And so it was a very emotional thing doing that, but the best decision I ever made.
Absolutely.
And what I thought was coaching turned into, from my experience, and I think it's different for every coach and every client, is that it definitely turned into more of a consulting.
Right.
Where I had somebody from the outside come in and tell me everything I was doing wrong, what I could do better. As curveballs came up and I needed to restaff and analyze my business and write my business plan, it was much more of a consultant than a coach.
Right. Well, it's kind of like, and we talked about this too, the idea of taking action, right? One of the habits of a top producer is they take action on their decisions. And for you, because again, the law of diminishing intent, if you would have gone up in your room and then, well, let me call my wife and get her perspective and talk to her and see what she thinks. And, if she says anything about, well, maybe we should think about it, it's really easy just to say, oh yeah, you're right. Maybe I should think about it.
Well, you know what my wife said? I didn't tell her till I got home.
Yeah. Good choice. Yeah.
And she's like, oh, by the way, I saw this charge on the credit card. And I told her what it was. And she goes, that's a lot of money. And I said, do you trust me? She goes, 100%.
Love that.
And the 12 months following that, I doubled my personal production. And it paid for itself 10 times.
That's awesome.
But more than just the financial, too. This podcast is a great example. I don't think this podcast would have happened if it wasn't for my coach and for accountability partners like Ryan, who pushed us to do this. Said, stop talking about it and just do it.
Right.
So
you did that today when we were in the office. You said, hey, are we going to keep talking about this, or should we just go do this podcast?
Yeah.
Taking action.
In personal life, too, and you spoke about that a little bit, too, that coaching isn't just business. It's what are your goals spiritually, what are your goals with your family, and all that is definitely part of coaching, too. It definitely sounds like with Southwestern Consulting.
And it's funny. I mentioned this today in the workshop. How we do anything is really how we do everything. So if how we treat our business is also how we treat our relationships, and how we treat our friends is how we can treat our clients in some capacity. How we respect our bodies is also how we respect our follow-ups. I mean, everything is all tied together. That's why it's so powerful. I mean, you meet these ultra high producers, and they're producers in other avenues of their life, right? We have a coach, Ron Alford, and he's one of our senior partners, one of our top producers, and he did the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim, and that's what he does. I mean, he'll run a mile every year that he's alive. So when he turns 50, his goal is to run 50 miles that same day, right?
Wow.
So it's just, how are we pushing ourselves in one avenue of our life? And that bleeds into other areas too. I mean, if we're in the gym and we're hitting it hard, doesn't it just make it easier to eat healthier that day?
Always.
Right?
Yeah.
Always.
So when you, especially in those first few coaching calls with a new client, do you get clients that say, you know what, I'm good in the personal area. I don't really want to go down that road. I just want to focus on my business.
Totally.
And how do you handle that?
You know, initially I'm like, cool, if that's where we're going to focus, and let's focus on X, Y, and Z, whatever their initial, whatever is going to get them the results right away. I'm okay with doing that, because the fun part is that it always comes back up, right? Let's say you talked about action items with your coach, right? Let's say they didn't get any of the action items done, and you know, we're looking at, okay, cool, there's 4 things that we were supposed to do. You didn't even remember that you were supposed to do them. You just totally blanked. And it's like, hey, Brian, we're going to use generic Brian. That's a really easy example. Hey, Brian, why is it that you didn't get this done? Dig in, dig in, dig in. And my question is always, where else is this showing up? And then just silence. And sometimes it's just, oh, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, I didn't do this, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do this, right? That's how we can kind of dig in, because then people are more exposed, and they're like, okay, you're right. Here's a direct example of what I didn't do, and then how it's going to affect me.
This is kind of a personal thing to say on the podcast, but my wife told me a while back, a few months ago, she said, I am most attracted to you when you come back from one of your seminars or a really good coaching session, and you're fired up and motivated, and you're talking goals and behaviors and what you're going to do differently, and you're really excited about this metrics or this project. She goes, that gets me fired up. And then, because she's a very much a career mom, very motivated, that's where she gets her satisfaction.
Totally.
And so she's like, I'm most attracted to you when you come back from these things.
It's a confidence thing, I think.
Yeah.
It exudes.
Yeah.
Confidence is sexy.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Yeah, and it's I shouldn't say it's opposite with me and her, but when she starts throwing out big goals and things she wants to do, or what's making her happy professionally, I'm like, oh my God, we have a family, and it's just that whole balance, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, I have to go to her the same things she said to me, and Ryan and I kind of had to talk about this, and I thought about it since. Is I trust you. If you want to take this leap, if you want to go this career path or start this business and abandon the flexibility and stuff you have now, then I trust you. So, and that was something I struggled with a little bit.
Right. It's funny because if you think about in the sales world, how that shows up, right? Because that confidence, I mean, there's trust there, because if somebody comes in and they're super confident and it's like, okay, you just seem like you know what you're doing. I trust you, right? And, we did that example of the momentum, co-silk, get people to say toast instead of bread, right? There's confidence in what we're doing. And so when people are out there closing and they get really nervous towards the end, or they're not practicing or whatever that may be, they're wondering why they're not hitting their goals. Well, you're not confident at the end, or you're not confident when you're asking questions. And
it shines through.
Absolutely. It's a conviction thing. If you're not convicted in what you're doing, then there's going to be a lack of confidence, and then, your clients see right through you. And that's frustrating.
Well, and that's where the coach comes in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And one thing we didn't talk about today that I wish we would have, or I wish I would have said at the end is, it's now that you've gone through an hour workshop, right? You probably pulled 1 or 2 things. And for the people that listen to this podcast, it's the same thing. Hopefully you get 1 or 2 takeaways that may be completely off topic, but you take them away and you can apply them to X.
Right.
So now what are you going to do? What are you going to do with that sheet of note? notes you took, right? What about those 3 takeaways? Is that going to end up in the filing cabinet next to your 2013 business plan that you haven't looked at in 5 years?
Right.
Is what's your plan to implement? And that to me is really where coaching made the other investments made valuable. I got
Right.
traction with them, right?
So I'm curious when you decided to jump into your coaching program and you know the fact that you're just like, here's my credit card, run it, I'm done, like don't let me think about this. What in you said this is a good decision, I need to do this? Was there like a pain associated with like, look at, you know, my last year, look at my production?
Can I partially can I partially answer for you? So
do.
the people that were on stage at that time had doubled, tripled, quadrupled, 10x'd.
And I just want to preference that I had good volume. Like I was a good producer. It wasn't like I was, you know, new starting out.
Went
you
from
know, this was
10 loans to 20 in the year.
Right.
But
Top
these
producer.
people on stage had gone from say doing 30 loans a year or 36 loans a year. Let's say they were doing 3 loans a month to 150 loans a month in 3 years' time.
Wow.
Or 150 loans a year in 3 years'
Yeah.
time. So doubling. And Cody and I just had kind of looked at each other, and basically Cody was like, more or less like, we've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now. Like, why not me? Why not us?
Yeah.
doing the seminar
Yeah.
because we've both been in our industry for 10 plus years.
So it was like why can't that be me up on stage
Why
next
not
year?
me? Right.
You know, like why can't that be me?
Making it on stage at Sales Mastery in our industry is a huge honor,
Yeah.
right? That's a big deal.
Absolutely.
There's 3,000 people there. And so secretly inside, that was my goal and my coach's goal, is let's knock this out of the park so that we get invited to come on stage and share with everybody the success we've had.
Right.
So
I think it's one of those things too that success isn't a fluke. People don't just show up and they're like, oh, look, I got 10 loans, you know, taken care of this month. You know, check me out, right? That doesn't just happen.
no, I can tell you that I'm sure it's the same in your coaching program, but in my coaching program, you are going to work your ass off.
Yeah.
And if you fail, it's because you didn't give 75%. I think you don't even have to give 100%. If you take 75% of the actions and the accountability and follow through, you're going to see results. And if you can go higher than that, it's going to be even better. But I think coaching isn't the secret sauce, right? It's you are going to work your ass off.
Right.
The harder you work, the luckier you get.
So true. And it's crazy too, because again, like the number one reason people get a coach is accountability.
Yep.
And I'm going to, because, you know, I'll coach people that have been in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years in mortgage, real estate, financial services, insurance. I coached a guy that was over twice my age, and it was great. He called me coach. We'd get on the call, and he's like, hey, coach, what do we have going on? And he had a son that was like my age, but the respect was there because I held him accountable to the things that he needed to get done. And that can be anybody, right?
Yep.
And that's so strong just to be able to, you know, I saw your board. I saw here's the 6 things that you need to get done to check off. And I'm sure your coach is going to ask about them when you guys talk again. Did you get this done? Did you get this done? You should get this done. And it sucks. I have a coach, you know, I pay a coach too. And my coach has a coach, and that coach has a coach. And then there's a coach that's outside the company. And, you know, we're all broken. We all need somebody to hold us, you know, hold our tails accountable. I mean,
Well, it's funny. I'm going to interrupt you for a second. The president of our company, I tried calling him the other day. Super successful, been in the industry a long time.
Yeah.
Big person of influence. And I called him up, got his voicemail, and sent him a text. Hey, I got this question for you. And then he called me at like 11:05 that day. He's like, sorry, I just got out of my 2-hour coaching call.
that's
I
awesome.
said, wait a second. You do coaching?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I've had the same coach for 18 years. I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. To know that this person that's way up at the company, president of the company, president of the Northwest or whatever his title is, he has a coach.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, and then I started looking at what about people that I'm in charge of. That must instill confidence in them that they know that their leader is being coached.
Right.
It's the podcast that I just sent you. It's leading from the front, leading by example.
Yeah.
Like, you can't tell everybody under you need to get a coach if you don't have a coach.
Exactly.
Well, and then I started thinking, I go, I wonder what his coaching calls are like.
I was
Right?
literally going to ask you that. Like,
Like-
what are they talking about?
Was before I came on and
Yeah.
he was, recruiting me, was
Yeah.
I part of his coaching call? Was
Yeah.
his coach like, all right, when are you going to follow up with Cody next? When are you going to schedule the appointment? Like, was that part of it? And I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because it's probably pretty basic stuff. You know?
Dude, we just talked about that with Brad and Ashley. It's just doing the daily basics.
Yeah.
Like, literally just checking off the basics, and you're probably going to be successful. I mean, you got to go above and beyond that. But if you're not doing the basics,
Yeah.
Did you make your 3 recruiting calls?
Yeah.
Did you talk to your assistant? Did you have a personal conference with the people on your team? I mean, it's all like, I'm sure he knows everything that his coach is telling him.
Mm-hmm.
It's just he has to have somebody tell him, hey, you need
Well,
to do it.
Yeah, I think that's obviously a huge part of coaching. But I'll tell a quick story, and it's also helping with decision making, right?
Yeah.
So we had, so I'll make sure I don't say any names here. We had an employee that we loved, great culture fit, very sweet person. We all loved working with this person. So on one coaching call, my coach knew all my staff, and we were talking about job descriptions, and he helped me write everyone's job description, right? So that's worth the price of admission right there.
Yeah.
And he goes, "What about this person?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm thinking about possibly letting her go."
Yeah.
And so he kind of coached me through that, and said, as soon as you think you should let somebody go, you're probably too late. You should let them go right away. And
Yep.
the worst thing you do is hang on. So he worked me through all that, and we had kind of have a unwritten rule to work on our team. You have to be 2 things. You have to be a good culture fit.
Yeah.
Right? Have to be a good culture fit, and is to bring us up, not down. And you have to be really good at your job.
Yep.
Right? You can't be really good at your job and be an asshole, and you can't be a really sweet, fun person to work with and do a really poor job. So you got to do both.
Yeah.
So he helped me make that decision probably months before I would have on my own, which helped me gain the respect of the office because everyone kind of saw it happening, even though everyone loved her. That person tried so hard.
yeah. You slipped twice. That's all right.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's the second time. That's okay.
And
It was
then
Brian.
Yeah.
Brian, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so helped me with that. And then when I hired on the new person, he goes, "Okay, here's what I recommend for an interview process. You're going to have this many interviews. You're going to have these other people interview. You're going to meet in this location." And so beyond the accountability and the motivation and the daily tasks, being able to have somebody I could trust that was intimate with my business, help me with those type of decisions was
Yeah.
awesome. And to know that my leadership has those people
Totally.
that are intimate with their business that are helping them make decisions, it feels really good.
And I'm sure you get, hey, you're talking to this person, and it happens all the time. We have our coaches, and initially it's, hey, let's talk about business. Let's talk about, what's your pipeline look like? What's your closing ratio? What's your reach to appointment ratio? All that stuff. But then, like your personal life starts drifting in there, and then you have questions about this. Well, how do I handle this? And it's interesting. One of my favorite clients, we haven't even met in person yet, and we've worked with each other for about 1.5 years. And I helped him find the jeweler to pick out his ring to engage to his girlfriend at the time.
Nice.
And it just, stuff like that just comes up because he would use me for same thing, hiring decisions like, hey, I'm trying to put together a description, a job description. What do you think of this? Or, hey, I'm trying to do a 3-stage hiring process compared to a 2. What should we add in there? Should we do a video? Should we do this or this or this? You spend so much time talking about that, it inevitably you end up talking about personal things and what's going on with your kids and what's.
This is a question.
Yeah.
So when I had my very first coaching call, after it was over, I went into Ryan's office and I said, I don't think this coach is going to work out. And he was like, why not? I'm like, he's a super nice guy, but I think on our next call, I need to tell him that I don't want to be friends. I want a coach.
Yep.
Because instantly we had a couple things in common, and we were getting along too well in that first call, and there wasn't a lot of substance to it. And then it morphed into both. We ended up becoming really close friends through coaching, but then he was also one of the best. I had the best experience from a coaching level too. So as a coach, is that ever a concern, or is it good or bad, or how do you handle like when you really like, it may be opposite too, when you really like somebody and you become personal friends with them, or when maybe you don't like that person but you still have to coach them? Right? I'm sure you get both.
Every once in a while. So how our company actually pairs individuals, it's a lot of personality based. You guys know the DISC assessment, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So we'll use a similar thing to make sure we're pairing people with the right individual. But of course, every once in a while, you're like, we might not have a ton in common, and I'm okay with that, right? I think it's kind of a safe line of, I used to joke about this, like I worked this internship program, and a lot of the people we ended up working with were friends. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to put on my coach hat. I'm going to take it off. Okay, I'm going to put on my friend hat now, right?
So you were friends before you started coaching?
In my last career, yeah. I was a college recruiter, and so I worked with a lot of my friends and my business fraternity and just people that I knew growing up. And I think that was actually a lot harder than what I do now, because there is kind of this weird boundary that's like, it's hard to cross. Like, how do I call out my friend because he didn't get this done, right? That is a challenge. And I think now, since I don't know them, they're also more receptive, right? You guys have probably experienced this. It's okay to get called out by this person that you don't know, because your relationship with them is, you're my consultant, you're my coach. I need you to call me out, right? And I told that to my coach too. Like, call me out on my stuff, right? If I don't get it done, like, get into me. And because everybody likes getting called out differently, and you kind of have to ask, like, hey, do you my parents growing up, my dad was fairly strict in how he would call me out on things, and my mom was kind of like it's okay, honey, let me give you a hug, and like, here's a sandwich or whatever. And I'll ask people, like, hey, when you mess up and you don't get something done, and I say when, because we all mess up, right? How do you want to get called out? And it's interesting to hear people, and a lot of them are like, just call me out on it, like, straight up, no sugarcoating, right? Because if you're like, well, you'll get them next time, I didn't pay X amount of dollars to have somebody make me feel good about not getting my stuff done.
Sure. Well, and human nature is human nature, and I'm really good at manipulating my coach too. Right. Like, I know how I can manipulate around where he might not ask me about this thing I was supposed to get done.
Yeah.
And a good coach, I think, can catch on to that and say, okay, I know you want to go down this road, or you're talking about this, but what about this over here? And the one word that my old coach used all the time that I really liked was pivot. Right. So he would, because Ryan and I did strength finders. Familiar?
Oh yeah.
And we identified that, I'm a futuristic and he's realistic. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
That's your top one? Because isn't it top 5?
Yeah, there's top 5, but Cody's top 2, and my top 2 is what brings us together back into the middle.
Yeah. Because I have a tendency to really over-operate in that futuristic, right, where I can have big ideas and big plans and look what we can achieve, or
Mm-hmm.
let's go partner with this big company and everything. So he would recognize when I had a good idea or maybe it wasn't a good idea, and he would redirect me. Or there was one, I was going to partner with one of the bigger employers in town and work with a partnership with them to serve their employees for home ownership. And he goes, all right, this is where we're going to have a pivot. And he said, I love that idea. I think we could totally execute on that and have huge success. But if we're going to do that, we need to adjust your goals down because it's going to take this much effort. And maybe this year you don't double your volume, you maintain your volume.
Mm-hmm.
You pursue this big project and then double your volume next year.
Yeah.
And again, worth the price of admission, right?
Yeah.
Right there.
Absolutely.
So
Called out.
yeah, in a
Right.
very good way. And that's that whole consultant thing.
Totally.
So you must love being a coach. When you graduated school in Missouri, did you know you wanted to be a coach?
No. And I mean, originally when I graduated college, I wanted to open up my gym, and I studied nutrition and fitness and entrepreneurship. And I talked about opening up like a boxing gym or like a CrossFit gym. And I remember going to, in my nutrition and fitness classes, we'd go to, we'd shadow like a nutritionist at 24-Hour Fitness, right? And nothing wrong with that at all. People...
Just bring the mic just a little bit closer.
Sure.
There you go.
Oh, just turn
Yeah.
that base so it doesn't fall over.
Perfect.
Yeah. There you go.
Is this good?
Now we're really
You're
good.
good.
Okay. But they were in the gym all the time, and which is great, right? You get in great shape, but they're making these nutrition plans for people that aren't really that excited, or like you're a nutritionist for, and I have a lot of friends that are in that industry. They love it. That's what they're passionate about. Like at nursing homes, they put together nutrition plans.
Mm-hmm.
That just didn't spark me. And so I heard about this internship program called Southwestern Advantage, and it was kind of marketed as the toughest internship in America. And, it was door to door, 80 hours a week, straight commission. We would be relocated to a different part of the country, and we'd sell books, educational software and early learning. And the only reason I said, hey, that sounds great, let's do this, is because they said it's really hard. I'm like, okay. I could stay at a grocery store and make $7.50 an hour, or I could go get my butt kicked and, cry on the side of the road and learn from it. And so I initially learned about that. So Southwestern Consulting is a sister company, and some of the mentors were, working with people, in the internship program. And I slowly just kind of started seeing, like, what is their impact on the world? Like, what are they leaving? What is their purpose? And a lot of it had to do with how are you serving, and how are you pouring into people, and how are you impacting people? And I think part of the challenge of everyday life is when we ask, what is our purpose? A lot of people don't really have a good answer, right? So really to be able to find what that purpose is, and for me, it's to be able to serve and to be able to pour into people. And part of that is calling them out, and part of it is that growth mindset. But I learned, when I was in college, when I was 18, how to go talk to people and knock on their doors and not feel super awkward, and because I did a lot of the time. But it stemmed from there. It stemmed from doing this crazy summer internship to now we work with, people all over the country, all over the world. One of my favorite coaching clients is in Lithuania.
Oh, crazy.
And to try to plan, that's a challenge too, like trying to plan out when we're going to be talking and what that's going to look like. Okay, so you're 8 hours ahead, so it'll be morning for me, evening for you. But coaches have if that's their calling, right? And you have to be able to do what your calling is and what's going to push you. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And, one thing that Ryan and I are doing kind of with our business model is being a resource for the people we do business with.
Yeah.
Far and above just referring a home inspector, referring a real estate agent to a client. But we want to go much deeper and mastermind together and share ideas of how we can better serve our clients and how we can be of more value.
Yeah.
And so we're starting to get some traction with that. And it's amazing what's happened to me personally by helping the other people is, we'll sit down and talk about prospecting, or we'll script out on how we're going to help provide value to a very specific person. And then I walk out of that fired up, motivated, realizing areas in my business where I'm failing, where I could do better.
Right.
And so it's that almost by helping somebody, the iron sharpens iron, that analogy. Right. But it's been really good, and I'm really excited for this next chapter in our business. And I'm excited for my next coaching call, just because we've had a good day today, and I'm excited to share some of those wins with him.
And there were some big wins too for both of you guys.
Today was good, and I'm a type of person that I've learned about myself is that I need pats on the back, right? I need to be told I'm doing good. I think mostly not to feed ego, but just to confirm that I'm doing good, right? So having a coach to call up and say, these are the wins I had this week, and have them help me celebrate and know the struggle it took to get to that win is a great benefit of coaching too.
I'm in the same boat. I love that. And I love, we have like a leaderboard, and my goal every time is I want to get on this leaderboard. So you talked about the Strengths Finder, right?
Yeah.
What were your guys' top two? Do you remember?
It's been like a year and a half.
Mine was futuristic, and the second one was similar.
Mine were more like on the lines of realist.
Yeah. Which works well for both of you guys.
Yeah. That's how we figured out our
and
dynamic.
a planner. Like, I don't remember which one's the planner, but if things aren't going to plan, it makes like a perfectionist almost, where it makes you uncomfortable if things aren't going the way you planned it.
So my top two were Woo and Competitor. And so for me, I'm always trying to beat the next person and try to beat the next person. And Woo, I think it stood for winning others over. Yeah. Right. And, looking at the career path I'm in, that's actually been a challenge, the whole winning others over, because part of calling people out is you're not necessarily winning them over, right? And there is that uncomfortable, dude, why didn't you get this done? What did that look like? And there's kind of like this acceptance factor. I think I was talking to Robbie. Have you met? He was sitting next to Kathy today, and that was one of the challenges that we kind of shared was this idea of feeling like you're accepted. And so for a lot of people, it is dealing with the rejection of sales and hearing no. And again, that's
being embarrassed.
And being embarrassed. Yeah, absolutely. It's really cool to watch how you guys are setting this up too, and how long have you been doing this? The not this specifically, but those meetings, and it's quarterly.
That was our second one.
But to be fair, I don't know, a couple years ago, Cody and I got back from Sales Mastery.
Oh, this is great. You're going to love this.
So we got back from Sales Mastery, and I want to say the DVD for the program came 3 months later. So
yeah, we bought the DVD because they filmed the whole seminar.
All 4 days.
Yeah.
So I said, dude, let's just take each speaker and bring our lunch in on Wednesdays, and we'll eat our lunch out in front of the TV, and we'll watch a speaker, and then so we did that, him and I, for a couple weeks, and then we invited our office mates. We were like, hey, bring your lunch. It was what do we call it? Wednesday
midweek motivator.
Midweek motivator. To get over that, to get over
really
that,
creative.
I feel like it was mine, but
it's probably a joint.
So yeah. Long story short, we were like, dude, well, let's each invite an agent or a referral partner, and we'll get lunch, and it'll just be 1 hour.
And some of these speakers were like Bill McDermott, Darren Hardy, Tom Ferry. I mean, really good speakers.
Yeah. And so we just started bringing in referral partners, and And that lasted for over a year. And then I actually kind of challenged Cody here a couple months ago. We've just been so busy, but I was like, we need to do TED Talk Tuesdays because they're so quick.
I also came up with that name.
No, you didn't. Anyways, so
He's trying to take that
but I was
on
like, dude,
acceptance.
let's just do one a week.
Yeah.
Let me guess, you're gonna send out an email on Fridays to all your referral partners. No,
No, that was a good idea.
Hey guys, I have this really great idea.
But it
This
did.
is what it is.
It served several things.
Yeah.
One, carrying enthusiasm is hard to do when you come off of these events, like this workshop
yeah.
today.
Yeah.
We were all fired up in there. And we were
Right.
talking about very basic 10,000-foot view, kind of 101. Time blocking is important. All those different skills. I mean, we crammed a lot of content in a very short amount of time. But what do you do? How do you carry that enthusiasm through? We were talking. Someone said, "Coming to work with a bad attitude." What did she say? Where you start your day off negative or a negative thought.
Oh, I don't want to prospect because I'm in a bad mood.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so Wednesday lunch, you watch that video, eat some lunch, but you'd walk away because you'd be sitting there, and we'd watch the same videos over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
the best ones. If it was a new agent, we're like, well, they haven't seen this awesome talk.
Yeah.
And so we'd sit there, and I might be dealing with an issue or a problem or trying to take something to the next level or lack of motivation. And so it was almost like whatever was on my mind is what I took away from. I could listen to the same speaker over and over again. I would take a different, walk away with a different perspective each time.
Yeah, because we watched the Bill McDermott one 6, 7, 8 times, and every single time Cody and I looked at each other at the end of the hour, and we were like, dude, I heard something in there that I didn't hear the first 9 times.
Look up
Totally
his
different.
book really quick. I can't remember the name of it. It's a really good book. Are you familiar with Bill McDermott? He was he's a former CEO of Xerox, and
I've heard of.
he's the CEO of a huge software company now.
I think it's like SIP. SAP.
No,
SAP.
no, it's not SAP.
Yeah,
That wouldn't be it.
No, it's not.
that's him though.
That's Bill McDermott.
But-
Click on just all.
But he's got glasses because just 3 months before we heard him speak, he fell down some stairs.
Oh, it is SAP. You're right. I'll take it back.
Yeah.
He's a snazzy looking guy.
Yeah, so we'll pull up the screen capture here. Bill McDermott.
And so
Let's see.
a
If
couple months before we saw him speak, he fell down the stairs at night with a glass of water and lost his eye.
Whoa.
Almost bled to death.
Yeah, almost
Here's his book, Winner's Dream: A Journey from Corner Store to Corner Office.
Oh yeah, it's highly recommend it.
I love it.
Yeah, that just thinking about it, that's such a good speech that he gave.
It's funny though. You're right. Whenever there's a really prominent speaker and you hear if you have a recording, it's always like a nugget that you take from. Okay, well, oh man, because your brain is almost focused on one part of that speech that you tend to neglect other areas that it's not going to hit home for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever you're dealing with.
Exactly. That's awesome.
Well, and one thing that you said, Cody, is how do you keep that enthusiasm once you leave something like this? And I think the answer is get a coach. The answer is accountability.
Yeah, get a coach and
Or just get an accountability partner.
Yeah.
If you don't think you're ready for a business coach,
It's a great start.
ask somebody to be your accountability partner and ask them to hold your feet to the fire.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
and you got to look in accountability in different things you do. We went through a phase there where Ryan and I wanted to get to the office really early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And we, I don't know if you had this, but
We totally did.
yeah. So from like 8:30, that was my time or Ryan's time where I can check emails. I can work on a project I'm doing on. I can do podcasts. It's free time on my time block. It's free time.
7:30 to 8:30.
7 to 8:30.
7 to 8:30. Okay.
Yeah. So if I needed to catch up on a file from the day before, or it was free time to work.
Okay.
And so getting into the office at 7 a.m. sucks.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
So that was your guys. You held each other accountable.
We never officially said this, right?
Okay.
But we both wanted, and it got to be, who gets there first? Well, how do you tell who was there first?
How long have they been there?
And how long have they been there?
Okay.
Is the
Okay.
coffee pot full? Is it ready?
Yeah. Right.
because, it's easy to run in, turn on your computer, take your jacket off and be like, oh, I've been here half an hour. Where have you been?
Yeah.
But if there's only that much coffee in the coffee pot,
Yeah.
so the coffee pot became an unspoken accountability tool.
I love it. Measure how long have you been.
Yeah, and then you
Well,
give
it was
each
like
other shit
if the coffee's like just brewing,
Right.
I know that like he just got there, like he
Right.
just turned the coffee pot on.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
if all 12 cups are full, office has a great coffee aroma.
Yeah,
Cody's
yeah.
in his office working away. He's like, I've been here for 30 minutes. I just haven't gone and got my cup of coffee yet.
So, and there's other ways you could have a mass amount of accountability partners for
Yeah.
one goal. And
Totally.
when the year I decided I was going to double my production, I told everybody, so this is my goal. I want to help this many homeowners this year. And I had some visual things that help me keep track of that goal. And so you get different reaction, right? People, that's an unattainable goal. Darren Hardy calls it the crab mentality, where you drop a crab pot down to the bottom of the ocean, put a little bait in there, crabs come over, and they get in the cage. And the crabs can escape a crab pot.
Right.
But what happens is one crab sees a crab eating, so he goes in the cage, attracts more crabs until there's all these crabs in the crab pot. Well, one crab will figure out that if he just climbs to the top, he can climb right out. But what happens is when he starts climbing up, another crab will grab him and pull him back down.
Huh.
And if that crab goes and does it again, pull him down and probably break one of his legs. And if that crab keeps trying to get out, another crab's going to kill that crab and prevent them from leaving the crab pot.
So why are they keeping them in the crab pot?
It's just the crab mentality.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's a correlation to as you're gaining success and momentum, there's going to be people that are going to try to hold you down.
Yeah.
And you can't let that deter you.
You get like what we're doing now, right? And that's one of the reasons Ryan and I work together is we're not crabs towards each other, but like you might have a good idea and you go out on a limb and try something like I'm going to put on a educational class, or I'm going to start a podcast, and you start having success, and those other people are going to be like, oh, he thinks he's hot shit, he's doing these classes, it's a waste of time, and they'll start slamming on you
Yeah, totally.
until you get to a certain point and you start hitting your goals, and then they're like, oh, well, I can't really talk shit about him anymore because he hit his goal. So just by telling a bunch of people, when I was getting close to, when it was like August, September, I was like, I have to hit this goal. Because if I don't hit this goal, then all those people will be like, yeah, look at, you thought you could hit that goal, but you did all these stupid ideas and you're really not any better than the rest of us.
Absolutely.
And so that's, by telling lots of people a big audacious goal, that's accountability.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because you guys obviously work really well together. Well, the saying is you are who you are based off of the 5 closest people you hang out with.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like
your
millionaire
personality is the sum
mindset.
of the 5 people you spend.
And your income also, like if you look at your 5 closest friends, your income is going to be very similar to a certain percentage. Because you're right, because there are those haters. I always tell people that it's good to have haters. It's good you got to have people that you're trying to prove right. It's like I want to prove my manager, my director, my broker, my branch manager, whatever. I want to prove them right. But then you also have to have people that are the haters, the doubters, right? Because that's also motivation, positive, negative motivation, having those people that say you can't do it,
As long as you're aware, right?
True.
Because it can be really discouraging.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you have to be intentional about knowing that. Because it can, if somebody you respect says, oh, you're not going to be able to hit that.
Like Ryan and I like wearing suits to work. It's just something we do.
Yeah.
It's not because that's right or wrong.
Right.
But it just, for me, I don't know why Ryan does it, but for me, it puts me in the right state of mind. Even when I work from home, I wore a suit.
Yeah.
Just because it was mindset, right? And even at home, it was almost more important because when I was in a suit, I was working. When I was in my sweats, I wasn't. But to go back a little bit, not everybody in the office we were working at the time wore suits. Some of them wore jeans and a polo.
Yeah.
Some wore tank top and flip-flops. There's no right or wrong. but people did hate on us a little bit. Maybe behind our back, maybe it's a little bit in my head, but I felt like people were hating on us because we wore suits every day.
Interesting.
Right? It's like, oh, what do they think? I felt like people thought I was a snob, whether they did
Yeah.
or not. That was in my head.
Right. Oh, and obviously, if you have somebody else that's doing the same thing, it's a lot easier to be able to, to go out and do that. And somebody that says, hey, let's do a podcast. And they're like, yeah, let's totally do a podcast. And then you hold them accountable to doing that, right? And part of that's just being coachable to, respect the other person.
Hit on those three. So you said you have to be all three of these things to be a good coaching candidate.
Yep. You got to be coachable, right? And I think that's really true, because if you're working with somebody that knows what they're talking about and they're speaking into, and consulting you within your business, no matter what, you have to be blindly coachable, right? No matter what, I am going to follow you till the grave, and I will do this and this and this because you're telling me it's going to help me grow. And I've had clients that weren't coachable. And I've had clients before where I bring up this idea of referrals, and they're like, well, that just doesn't work in my business. I'm like, okay, well, it does. Have you tried it? And they're like, I'm not going to try that. Right. And, it never works. If you can't say, yes, I'm going to try this because you know what you're talking about, you're not willing to do that, it's tough. So coachable is number one. Committed. You got to be committed, and it's our coaching program. There's other coaching programs out there that are 6 months. Ours is a year. And I think part of that is because, there's going to be different seasons in your life, and there's going to be ups and downs. And obviously, in some industries, summer months, you're crushing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a coach in those summer months where you're crushing it, and then all of a sudden you hit you're jumping into, November, December, when things are slowing down, right? And then you don't have a coach anymore, like that's tough. So it's a commitment no matter what. And you got to be ready to change, because I think change, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to get what you've always got.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to have a desire to want to change. And part of that's emotional. Like, a lot of people don't change, the fact that they're going to the gym because they're like, well, this is what I'm used to. I guarantee you, if that person goes in the bathroom, takes off their shirt and takes a picture, and they look at themselves in that picture, they're like, that's an emotional, like, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see those coaches, the nutrition and fitness coaches, and I've used some of those before. They have like the before and after pictures. Part of the reason they have those before pictures is for yourself. You kind of have to have that emotional, like, man, that's a gut check.
Yeah, it's almost like if you've lost a bunch of weight and become really healthy, on your vision board, you should almost put a picture of what you looked at like before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never
Yeah.
thought about that. It's like a reverse vision board.
Negative vision board. You suck vision board.
All right, so you got to be coachable. You got to
Yep.
be willing to change. What's the third one?
Committed.
Committed.
You got to be coachable, committed, ready for change. And the coachable piece too, it's funny because I think back to, whenever I did this internship program, one of the things that made me want to be coachable is as a college senior, this guy that I was going to be living with made $20,000 in a summer. And I'd, maybe scrapped $1,000. So in my brain, I'm like, sure, that, of course, whatever you say you're going to do, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
And a great example of this, we were getting ready for the day, and we all lived at the same place, and we're changing, and I come running out, and he was wearing shorts, and so I'm like, sweet, it's a shorts day. And so I went and put on shorts, and then I come back out, and he was wearing jeans, and I kind of like did a double take and didn't say anything. And so I ran back into my room and put on jeans, and I came back out and he was wearing shorts again. I'm like, dang it, what am I supposed to wear today, right? But again, it's just blindly being coachable in some sense, not stupidly coachable, right? But blindly knowing.
Being humble.
Exactly.
Right? A little humility.
Exactly. Yeah. And just saying, hey, I'm broken. I'm not perfect. Show me the way and help me through that.
Well, and that brings up a good point too, is you don't have to be broken. You don't have to be doing bad or not hitting your goals
Totally.
to take advantage of a coach.
Yep.
Right?
And most people that see the value in coaching are already top producers. And they already know, like, in order for me to grow, I'm humble enough. I understand the fact that right? Great example of this, big financial firm. I won't throw any names out there, but big financial firm. They have these giant annual meetings, and they'll have like the 10 top producers on the stage. I think it was something crazy one year, like 8 out of the 10. It was like 7 out of the 10 were currently in some sort of coaching program. There's a gazillion out there, right? And 9 out of the 10 had a coach or have had a coach. And I think the 10th one, the outlier, was like his dad worked in the industry, so his dad was kind of his coach, right? But top producers are always going to be top producers because they see value in investing in themselves, which is getting a coach.
So we're on a little bit of a time crunch today, trying to cram a lot into a busy day. I want to talk about one more topic before we wrap up here. And the economy's great right now.
Mm-hmm.
People are doing well in all industries. When the economy slows down or we go through a recession, or maybe in an individual industry, business slows down. If I'm looking at my expenses and I have to cut something, how quickly does coaching get cut? And what are your thoughts about that? And it almost looks like that's the most important time to have a coach, but it's also a large expense.
Such a good point. It depends on the type of person. It depends on the person that says, okay, that's something that I'm never going to give up. And I think people that have experienced quality coaching and have been in some sort of program, that's not an expense that they give up. They give up advertising dollars or whatever that may be, or cut back a little bit on expense or like trips or whatever that may be. I think at the end of the day, there's always going to be an excuse not to invest in ourselves because it's not natural, right? If the economy's good, isn't it really easy to say, well, the economy's great right now. I'm kicking tail. Like, I don't need a coach, right? Compared to, well, the economy sucks. I can't afford a coach. So I think it more so has to do with our own mindset and our own excuses that we're telling ourselves. Right now, I think is an ideal time for people to see the value in it, right? Because not every coaching program is a perfect fit for every person, and not every person is a perfect fit for every coaching program. I'm happy if people do any program. Doesn't matter if it's ours, if it's Buffini, Ferry, whatever it may be. But it's just that idea of how do I value myself? We only have one shot, right? How are we going to treat it? Are we going to have a coach and have somebody hold us accountable and, consult us through our life? Or are we going to try to do it on our own? So I think the economy is just an easy excuse to say, I can't afford it. People that do coaching find a way to afford it because they can't afford not to do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully that's the point, right? So you can't afford not to do it. So I'm listening to this podcast. I am in a completely different industry than Ryan and I want to know more about coaching and your company. How can I get in touch with you?
So we have our fancy website here. There's actually a better website if you go to Will Metscher. Not Bill McDermott. Will.
So can you imagine if Bill McDermott was your coach?
That'd be pretty rad.
It's Metscher.
I think there's an L or an N in there somewhere.
L and N. No, sorry, not .com. SWC.com.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and go to screen capture.
That's totally not it. Will Metscher. ETSCH.
Free last will and testament.
Did you add an extra? Is there an extra L in there?
Oh, I did.
That's a fancy way to spell my name. Do you ever notice people are trying to be creative with how they're spelling their kids' names, and they're trying to do differently and like throw an extra? There you go.
Oh, here we are.
Look at that guy.
Man, I don't like my picture.
Looks good.
Yeah?
You look like you did it there in the workshop today.
Well, I appreciate that. So that's what I look like. So there's a couple ways. we obviously have our coaching programs tab that you can kind of go through, and there's 3 different programs. There's Top Producer's Edge, there's Sales Manager's Edge, and we have executive level coaching. Elite level coaching, we changed the name on it because it's not just for executives, it's for anybody. And then, kind of what we had done today was a complimentary workshop. So yeah, you can click on contact. See another horrible picture.
I like the other picture better.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I do too. We should get them to change this. That's our fun, fancy headquarters down in Nashville, Tennessee. But again, we offer complimentary workshops for sales managers, and it's fun too because it's kind of customized based on what people need to hear. Some people we talked about, these realtors today, we hit on goal setting. So it's going to be different for everybody.
All right, there's your plug. Will, thanks for taking the time to do this today. I know you're a busy guy. We're all busy. So I appreciate you taking the time, and the workshop was great. Follow us on YouTube. The Hunt for Success YouTube.com/C/The Hunt for Success podcast. If you're already watching it, you already know where it's at.
Yeah, if you go to YouTube, just search The Hunt for Success.
More so share with your friends.
Yes.
'Cause you're watching it right now or listening to it.
I don't know the order where we're going to release these last couple of podcasts we did, but go to our GoFundMe page. Help us raise some money for the Children's Justice Center. If you just type in, go to GoFundMe and search for Clark County Children's Justice Center. Really help us hit that $10,000 goal. It's a big goal. I'm going to bring it up with my coach this week.
Good.
I think it's a great foundation. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff.
Facebook, The Hunt for Success podcast.
LinkedIn, for the first time I put us on LinkedIn.
There we go.
You guys on Snapchat yet?
No.
We don't do Snapchat.
You're not checking your chat?
No
snaps?
We're not teenagers.
If you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, I could really help these guys do much better on YouTube and iTunes as far as gaining listeners and subscribers, reach out to us. Comment on here. We're looking for somebody that is probably a lot younger than us.
The Hunt for Success podcast at gmail.com. Hit us up.
Next time, everybody.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right. We are heading out the door.